All
Yeah, let's
right, so
go.
obviously we had the biggest boxing card of the year. Well, probably the biggest boxing card of the year. Two veterans in the sport. Mike Tyson taking on Roy Jones Jr., both in their 50s, both years out from retirement, much longer for Tyson. But, both guys went in there, had a pretty... I would say they looked in good form when they came out. But Mike Tyson is still a beast, in my opinion. Whereas Roy Jones Jr. looks like he was showing his age a little bit. He was initiating the clinch a lot. You could tell he was getting tired. I thought Tyson convincingly won the fight. I maybe gave 1 round, max 2 rounds if you're stretching it, to Roy Jones Jr. But I know it wasn't officially scored. But yeah, I did give the fight to Tyson. What were your thoughts on the fight itself and the judgment at the end?
Yeah, I thought the fight itself was really impressive, especially from Tyson, just because 15 years out, he's 54 years old now. I didn't expect him to look that good, and it's one of them where people were fearing the worst going into this. Like Mike Tyson, he might get hurt or he'll just look terrible, but he didn't. He looked brilliant, and fair play to him. I'd be tuning into the next one, and in my opinion, he won every round, and it's a shame it weren't scored officially. If you can have Jake Paul against Nate Robinson as a pro boxing match with proper scoring and things like that, I don't see why you can't have these guys. And yeah, but really good showing from Tyson. I'd prefer him not to rematch Roy Jones, although the scores said a draw. It went a draw. We all know that. I prefer him to go and fight, someone who's more of a heavyweight, maybe Evander Holyfield or someone of that ilk.
So you're not interested in seeing the Anderson Silva matchup they've been chatting about?
I'd rather see Anderson Silva against Roy Jones Jr. I think the problem with Roy Jones I think he was only £10 less, but he weren't in the best shape in terms of Tyson was 220 ripped. I think Roy Jones was 210, a bit flabby type thing. So if he could cut a bit of weight, get an Anderson Silva fight, that'd be more interesting to me than seeing Tyson against either of them two. I'd rather see Tyson in there with someone more his own size, a bigger guy who's not going to be afraid of the punches, because that's what Roy Jones seemed to be. He seems to just be avoiding the punches, and he was very good defensively, but was unable to put any offense together really. So yeah, that's what I want to see next.
I'll suggest a good one here. Mark Hunt has a boxing match against Paul Gallen here in Australia coming up. I think it's next month. Yeah, it's next month. What if Mark Hunt gets a win there, and then they do Mark Hunt versus Mike Tyson and Anderson Silva versus Roy Jones Jr.? What do you reckon of that?
It's good. It's just I just don't know if Mark Hunt's got the name value for
Mm.
Tyson. That's a risky fight because Mark Hunt could do some damage. I know he's old, but he's still very active, and he's still got that pop in his shot. So I think they're gonna have to really pick their opponents carefully. Aren't they? Obviously Tyson, he's not what he was. As good as he looked, he's still 4 years old. He looked his age, and he was, but just still decent for it. So they just need to match him really carefully. And I like that Evander Holyfield fight. I feel like they're both in probably similar levels. Evander said he wants to come back. Yeah, I'd prefer that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do next. Both guys. I'm excited to see what the Champions Only League does next, even if it's not boxing. I'm sure it'll be something entertaining. We'll jump onto the co-main, which was, in my opinion, the best performance of the night by anyone. And it came from the most surprising person, and that was Jake Paul in his fight against Nate Robinson. Just wiped the floor with Nate Robinson. Nate Robinson was swinging for the fences, grabbing a hold of him, clinching up, breaking, getting tagged, swinging again, grabbing a hold of him. I think Jake Paul dropped him 3 times in the fight, and that closing sequence was bad. They shouldn't have let him get up from that second knockdown. You could see his eyes rolling back in his head, and he's got cleaned up straight after. I don't really want to take anything away from Jake Paul by saying that Nate Robinson didn't know how to box, but it was clear he wasn't the most skilled boxer in there. But Jake Paul looked crisp from what we saw. He's striking. He was really respectful in the clinch. He didn't throw any dirty shots. He picked him apart in the feet, and, I was really impressed.
It was an impressive knockout, but it's hard not to take away from him, just because the level of competition he's facing. It's not even like he can go from this and make call-outs for, even Ben Askren or Dylan Dennis, who aren't even strikers, because he's facing people like Nate Robinson. I don't even know how much training he's done for that, because he didn't look like he'd done any boxing training. He looked like he just wanted some type of street fight. So Jake Paul, he looked good. He got a good knockout. All praise to him, but I just don't think it's really legitimate at all. I think facing someone like KSI would be the next step, not facing the McGregors or whoever he's calling out, because the level of competition he's fought is next to none. It really is next to none. What he did, he looked good. He looked good doing. He got a really highlight reel knockout. He was dipping through punches. He was doing everything right. You just want to see him do it against better opposition, even slightly better opposition, not even professional fighters, just anyone.
I agree. Yeah, like you said, wasn't the best opposition to put him in there with. But I will go on record with this, and you can hold me to it, because hopefully it does happen. I think if Dylan Dennis is to fight Jake Paul, it is going to be competitive, and I'll tell you why. Dylan Dennis is not a striker. He's a grappler. His striking might be alright. We saw him his last Bellator fight. He tried to show off his striking. He looked pretty good doing it. MMA striking is obviously different to boxing. But I think in a pure boxing fight, it's going to be very competitive. Jake Paul's been training hard for 2 years. How much do you think, all he's been training is boxing for 2 years. How much do you think Dylan Dennis has trained boxing in the last 2 years? Probably not even near as much. I think that would be a very competitive fight, and I think it's a great matchup. As far as McGregor goes, I think that's ridiculous. Let's not forget, Jake Paul's 200 pounds. Conor McGregor's 170 when he walks around, maybe. It'd be just a huge size difference. But if we're going to go skill for skill, Conor would smash him. There's no doubt. But Dylan Dennis is a very realistic fight. And also, I'll finish it off with Ben Askren. Please don't fight him, because I can't see you get knocked out again. And I don't think your striking's up to the caliber of someone who's been training boxing for 2 years.
Yeah, that's the problem. He's going from these, people who literally have zero boxing experience, like Anderson Gibbon and Nate Robinson are not. Do you have nothing? So it's just hard to gauge him. Is he that good, or would Dylan Dennis actually box his head off? You don't know, and it's interesting because these guys like Ashton and Dennis, they're not known for boxing, but they probably do a fair amount of it. Just they have to. So that's the next step. Or if he wants to stay in that celebrity lane, I think KSI would be the best boxer he's faced. He was the one. Beat a professional athlete. So fair play to him. He beat an athlete. On to the next one. He's got to step up the levels. Now, I don't want to see another, someone who hasn't boxed at all. At least someone who's done a little bit of training.
I think I don't really want to see Jake go back into the celebrity boxing against other YouTubers. I get boxing against other professional athletes, even the Nate Robertson. I think that made a lot more sense than fighting KSI. In my opinion, that KSI versus Logan Paul fight was horrendous. Both guys didn't look like they knew what they were doing at all. Especially KSI, if I'm being honest, because in that fight, he was just swinging and swinging. And I watched it back before this one. All his punches were 100% trying to put power on Logan Paul. And that's just not going to work against Jake Paul, who's technically better than Logan Paul or him. I don't want to see that. I want to see Jake Paul fight a fighter next. I think Dylan Dennis is the right guy for it. And yeah, hopefully they book that.
Yeah, there's plenty of options there. I'm sure he'll get it, especially when he's. I think there is a quiet or not so quiet minority who think he might be legit, and he talks well. He's a big star. I think there'll be a lot of people wanting to fight him. It's just about picking the right opponent. One where he's not going to get absolutely smashed, but there is still that intrigue, and it's the guys at Triller or Dazan or whoever's going to do it. They've got a job on their hands.
Well, the thing is that kind of doesn't go in his favor is he can't take a boxing fight against like a lower level pro boxer because there's just no money in it for him, right? He needs to take a fight against a bigger name. And so when he finally makes the jump into fighting boxers, he's going to have to fight the more talented guys because there's name value, you know what I mean? So he makes it hard for himself to be a professional boxer. I think these fights against MMA fighters are more realistic. We don't know how realistic until he gets in there with them, but they're more realistic and yeah, hopefully someone books it and hopefully we do see it.
Yeah, it's a good, especially the wrestlers. The wrestlers, does this wrestler who's been doing MMA for a few years, does he have better boxing than this kid that's more intriguing than a Conor McGregor or a Jorge Masvidal because they'll just smash him. Like it's disrespectful to think they wouldn't just smash him. So I think the Askrens, the Dylan Dennis's, the people like that does intrigue me because honestly, not being disrespectful, I'm not sure if they'd outbox Jake Paul. and that's just they don't do boxing as much. So yeah, as you said, that is an intriguing one.
Yeah, and before we move off the boxing to some news, I just want to shout out the first fight of the night that was on the preliminary card, and that was between Edward Vasquez and Irvin Gonzalez, and it was an awesome fight. I think it was a split decision. Yeah, it was a split decision, but both guys banged the whole time. There was zero clinching in this fight. It was all smashing each other on the feet. Yeah, really entertaining one. Did you catch that?
I seen the end of it, but I was switching between the UFC and the boxing, so I was watching the undercard. I was waiting really for Badu Jack to come out, so that's when I really tuned into that one. And yeah, but I heard that was a brilliant fight, and it's good that they have them on the undercard, whereas the top of the card weren't as competitive sometimes.
Nah, Badu Jack went out there and just obliterated Blake McKernan. Wasn't even close in my opinion. Yeah, I thought when the card started that a lot of these fights were probably really, really good bookings in terms of skill until it went further on, and then we got to that Badu Jack fight, and I was like, oh, maybe there's some typical boxing booking, like one fighter that's a champion caliber against someone not so high. But good nights of fights. I enjoyed all the fights on that boxing card, so yeah, it was good to see.
Yeah, I think Badu Jack almost felt bad, fighting that guy because that guy was 13-0, I think, but he'd never competed anywhere near that level, and my hat's off to him just for surviving because he absolutely got he got absolutely beat down for the whole fight, and he took everything. And Badu Jack was trying to finish him and he couldn't finish him. He's a tough guy, and I'm sure he'll get another big fight off the back of that, but Badu Jack it was dominant. It was hard to watch. It might as well just being a punching bag because that's just all he did. He just took the damage. But yeah, really really fun night of fights. I thought the way they incorporated the music stuff. Thought Israel Adesanya was really good on the mic.
Mm.
Snoop Dogg, I think some fans loved it, some fans didn't. It was. I think that's a lesson to a lot of these boxing guys who are in empty stadiums right now. There is a way to keep it entertaining, keep it fun, and I think they really did a good job for Triller in terms of the overall night. I think it was a big success. I'm looking forward to seeing what numbers it did, and I expect we'll get more of this in the future.